Hi everyone, it's Katie back with another episode of my vlog, and it's Sunday, so it's time for the Cinema Club Sunday Roundup. We had another kind of low movie watching week this week, only 5 to review today, but there were 5 really good ones. So we started off our week with The Fearless Hyena from 1979, written by, directed by, and starring Jackie Chan. This was the first movie that Jackie Chan was the director on. He had previously been the action director on a bunch of different kung fu movies, but this is the first one where he was the director. And it is great. It is everything you expect from a late 70s Jackie Chan movie. It's very funny. It's got great fight choreography, of course. That's what you watch these movies for. The plot is a little thin, as they usually are in these movies, but it doesn't matter because you're there for the fights and you're there for the different fighting styles. And this movie is really cool because it has some different really funny fighting styles, including something called emotional kung fu, which I'm going to leave that up to your imagination what emotional kung fu is, but it's really, really fun and really funny. And like I said, just fantastic, old school, classic Jackie Chan kung fu. I don't really want to say too much more about it because I don't want to spoil any plot details, but it's just a solid entry into his entire catalog. It's a great outing for him as a first-time director. It's well written by him. Again, it's just a classic Jackie Chan movie. I think it came out right after Drunken Master, so it's right in that zone. If you've seen Drunken Master, which I'm assuming most people who watch this vlog have seen Drunken Master, and you liked it, I would definitely check out Fearless Hyena. There is a second Fearless Hyena movie also, which unfortunately we tried to watch it the next night, but we weren't able to access it online. But then we actually did subscribe to a kung fu channel on Amazon called Hyena, which is of course a great name for a kung fu channel. And we wound up kind of scrolling around through that a little bit. And the next night after we watched Fearless Hyena, like I said, we were trying to watch Fearless Hyena 2, couldn't watch it. But we found a movie called Skinny Tiger, Fatty Dragon from 1990, directed by Lau Kar-wing, starring Sammo Hung, who, if you know anything about kung fu movies, Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan grew up together. They came up together, went to school together. They've been in a bunch of movies together. So if you've seen a handful of kung fu movies and you know who Jackie Chan is, but you've never heard of Sammo Hung, I would definitely look him up. Find some of his movies. Find some of the movies he's done with Jackie Chan. They're very funny, very good. But this is one that doesn't have Jackie Chan in it. It's Sammo Hung and Carl Maka. And it's like a buddy cop action comedy kung fu movie. They're trying to solve a case. They're going up against like some gangsters, and it's just great. It's very much in the tradition of classic Hong Kong kung fu movies, but it is a more contemporary entry into the genre. I say more contemporary. This movie is 30 years old at this point. But there's a huge difference between 70s kung fu movies and 90s kung fu movies. So again, this one's called Skinny Tiger, Fatty Dragon. It's very funny. It's very well written. It's fast paced. It also has incredible fight choreography. The fight scenes are just unbelievable. Sammo Hung is incredible. The way that they tell the story and the way that some of the fights unfold are pretty great. I've seen a lot of kung fu movies in my day, and this one really surprised me in a couple of different places with some totally original stuff. But then it also plays homage to a lot of the famous kung fu movies of history. So there's a bunch of different details in the fight scenes, which if you're a huge kung fu movie fan, like I am, you'll know, oh, this is from this movie, or, oh, they picked that move up from this other movie. And it's kind of cool because it's this, I don't want to say catalog, but maybe smorgasbord of different classic kung fu movie tropes coming together in, again, a more contemporary take, but 30 years ago, contemporary. So the one weird thing about this movie is the audio is a little strange. There's a lot of parts of the movie have no music, and it's really like so quiet that you suddenly go, like, is there something wrong with the audio? Like, I don't know. Something strange is going on with the mix on the copy of the movie that we watched. It was a little bit distracting, didn't take that much away from the movie, but we did note it over and over again. When there was music, it was feeling a little inappropriate for the scenes. And then, like I said, there's a lot of scenes that just have no music or no dialogue or even no sound. But other than that, it's incredible. We really enjoyed it. I can't wait to watch more kung fu movies with the kids because it's one of my favorite genres of all time. So back-to-back kung fu movies from a little bit different time periods, but both of them were totally great, totally recommended, especially if you are a kung fu fan and haven't checked out those two titles. Then in the middle of the week, I decided to go way, 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 way back to 1923. And we watched the Harold Lloyd classic Safety Last. This is a black and white silent film. And it is the one, I'm sure you guys know the image of Harold Lloyd hanging off of an oversized clock that's on the outside of a building very high up. Maybe you've never seen the film, but you probably have seen this image, which is the poster for the movie. It's the cover of the DVD. And it's just an enduring image from all of film history, but especially early film history. The plot is that Harold Lloyd's character goes to the big city to get a job and make some money so that he can marry his girlfriend. He's sending her gifts that he can't really afford and keeps kind of telling little white lies and saying that he's more successful than he is. Meanwhile, he's living with a friend of his and he convinces the friend to play a trick on a cop. And it turns out to be the wrong policeman. Like Harold Lloyd thinks he's going to get away with something and then whoops, different cop. Now this guy is mad and he's trying to get these two guys. So Harold Lloyd's buddy, whose name, I think it's Billy, but I can't remember. He's like really good at climbing things. And so he climbs up the outside of a building to get away from this policeman. The cop vows to get the guy. And then Harold Lloyd's character, through one thing and another of lying to his girlfriend, suddenly realizes he needs a lot more money than he has. And the owners of the department store where he works they're trying to figure out a way to drum up more business for the department store. So he comes along with this idea and says, hey, if I get tons of people to come to the department store, will you pay me $1,000? And they say yes. And so his big idea is he's going to have his buddy, who already climbed the outside of the building, climb the outside of the department store building. I think it's 12 stories tall, as a publicity stunt. And so they publicize that this is going to happen. And they draw this huge crowd to the store. And then the cop shows up right when they're going to begin the climb. So Harold's buddy has to go hide so that he doesn't get caught by this policeman who's out to get him. And Harold has to start climbing the outside of the building. And there's a bunch of gags where at every floor, they're supposed to switch places so the guy who's the more experienced climber can continue the climb up the building, but the cop keeps catching up with him. And so, of course, Harold Lloyd has to do the entire climb, even though he's completely freaked out as he's getting up higher and higher on the outside of the building. So the actual climb itself on the outside of the building was done with a bunch of different old school Hollywood tricks. I'm not going to tell you how they did it because I think it's cooler if you watch the movie first. And then you can look up, there's a bunch of videos out there about how it was done. But it's a very, very cool piece of film history, of early film history. And it's just a really cool movie all by itself. You have to get into the mode of watching a silent movie, which, that's where everybody's kind of pantomiming and they say their lines, but you can't hear them. And then there's a title screen that tells you what they said afterwards. The kids got right into it. I think it was the second or third silent film that they've seen. But they got right into it, even to the point where Jimmy is totally inspired and wants to make his own black and white silent film, which I'm really excited about. They actually wrote their own short horror movie a couple of years ago, and we haven't actually made it yet, but they've written the whole thing and they've partially storyboarded it also. It's called Alphabet Soup. And so James turned to me and was like, can we make Alphabet Soup now? And can we make it a black and white silent movie? And I was like, I think that's a great idea. So stay tuned. Maybe you will see our black and white silent film, Alphabet Soup, coming to this YouTube channel sometime soon. I have no idea when, but Safety Last, completely recommended, very funny. Again, very important piece of film history, but also just a great movie. We had a ton of fun watching it. So I encourage you guys, again, if you've never watched a silent film, if you've never watched a movie that old, check it out. We saw it on the Criterion channel, but it is actually in the public domain at this point, so it might be available on YouTube or somewhere else. We had a ton of fun watching it, and I would totally recommend it to any film fan, any comedy fan, and any student of film history, for sure. The next night after that was Friday the 13th, and of course, we always celebrate Friday the 13th around here by watching one of the movies from the Friday the 13th franchise. It was Jimmy's pick, and so he picked one of my favorites, Friday the 13th Part 3. This is the one that was filmed in 3D, and so, of course, as a 3D movie does, you get a lot of extraneous 3D objects coming at you for no reason other than they can do it in the 3D movie. This one is, again, a story of a group of teenagers who go to stay. They're staying in someone's house near Crystal Lake. One of the teens was previously attacked by Jason Voorhees and survived the attack. And she's now trying to confront her fears and get over her trauma by returning to the scene of the attack. But she's brought a bunch of friends with her, and they're having a, goofy teenager weekend with no adults. Well, I guess they're adults, but they're like 18, 19, right? So, they go skinny dipping, they're playing practical jokes on each other, there's sex going on, whatever. But meanwhile, Jason is wandering around in the area, causing mayhem. Also of note in this movie, we have a biker gang, a very short-lived biker gang, unfortunately, because they're one of my favorite on-screen biker gangs of all time. Our heroes, the teens, encounter them at a store when they go out for supplies, and they are intimidated and threatened by these bikers. And then they actually run the bikers' motorcycles over with their car, causing, obviously, an even worse problem with the biker gang. So the biker gang follows them back to the house that they're staying at to cause them some trouble. But the biker gang doesn't count on Jason Voorhees being back at the house. So they get into their own trouble as a result of that. I've already told you too much of the plot, so I won't say any more. But like I said, because it's a 3D, sometimes more attention is paid to getting the 3D element going than necessarily the performance that the actors are delivering or kind of anything else that's going on in the scene. So there's a lot of, stuff coming straight at the camera. There's a scene where there's a guy making popcorn with the lid of the pot open and the camera is positioned directly over the pot. So the popcorn's coming right at you. There's a, long handle of a rake. There's a pole. There's a spear gun. Ooh, spoiler alert. I will also say this movie is the first time that we actually see Jason in his iconic hockey mask. In the first two movies, he doesn't wear that at all, and he picks up the hockey mask about halfway through this movie, and then that's obviously just his jam that he's wearing for the rest of his existence, and even past his own existence, because he dies and is resurrected many times. But the hockey mask keeps following along with him. The other really notable feature of Friday the 13th Part 3 is the disco version of the Friday the 13th theme song, which is incredible. One of my favorites. I'm going to go ahead and put a link to it down below because I think it is such a great version of that theme song. So yeah, Friday the 13th Part 3, one of my favorites in the whole series. I know a lot of people don't like it. They think this one is cheesy. Guess what, guys? They're all cheesy. Sorry, had to say it. So that was the Friday the 13th that we watched on Friday. Of course, I would love to hear what you guys watched, because I know some of you watched some other Friday the 13th movies this last Friday. And what was it? All right, and that brings us up to yesterday. It was Henry's pick, and oh, my son, my heart, he picked They Live, 1988, directed by John Carpenter. You love this movie, right? You guys have seen this movie, right? This is really, 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 really required viewing. 10 out of 10, a perfect movie. It's got its problems, but it's a really important movie. This is, of course, the movie starring Roddy Piper and Keith David. Roddy Piper is a drifter who comes into town. He's staying at a homeless camp. The people at the church across the street from the homeless camp have something more than just a soup kitchen going on. Roddy's a little bit suspicious of what's happening, and so he goes creeping around in the back of their church to find out what's going on. And he finds a box of strange sunglasses. And when he puts the sunglasses on, his view of reality is completely different. When he looks at billboards, instead of seeing the billboard with the ad for whatever product, he sees a stark black and white billboard that says, consume, or obey, or marry and reproduce. He's at a newsstand, he looks at the magazines, and every single magazine has been replaced with this just white page with a black text on it that says something like, consume, obey, marry and reproduce. And when he looks at people with the sunglasses on, some people look normal because they are normal people, but some people look like horrendous ghouls. And the whole movie is obviously a commentary on, consumer culture and how terrible it is for us, and unchecked yuppie bullshit. And it's incredible. It has problems. It has plot holes. It has some really badly delivered lines, but it doesn't matter. The whole movie as a whole is so important. It's so cool. It's so well, it's just a great package. It's got, like I said, you can pick nits with a bunch of little details in the movie, but they don't matter at all. And the whole movie is so important and such a stunner of a message, and the way the message is delivered, it is incredible. And right in the middle of the movie, probably the crown jewel of the whole movie is in the middle of the movie. There is a 5-minute, like 6-minute long fight scene between Roddy Piper and Keith David. Roddy's trying to convince Keith's character to look through the sunglasses, and Keith David's character will not put the sunglasses on. And they proceed to have a knockdown, drag out fight in an alleyway that is probably one of the best fights I've ever seen in a non-kung fu movie. I will say that. Like, you can't really compare this to a proper martial arts movie, but compared to like any other action movie, it's like the best on-screen fight ever. I'm pretty sure Roddy Piper choreographed the fight. I couldn't find any confirmation of that, but he is coming to this movie from a career as a professional wrestler. So, I mean, that seems obvious to me. He is so good in the role. He's so funny, but also serious. Like, it's funny but serious, if that makes sense. But that fight scene, man, you guys, it is so good. The fight scene itself is so funny. It's just this knockdown, drag out, unbelievable brawl between these two guys in this alleyway. And it cracks me up every single time. I can't get enough of it. I just love it. It is a great scene in the middle of a great movie. I would say look up the fight scene by itself and watch it, but watch the whole movie. Definitely 10 out of 10, required viewing. You can't really beat this movie. I will say it is my second favorite John Carpenter movie after The Thing, also starring Keith David. So there you go. So that's what we watched this week. What did you guys watch? I'm so curious, as usual, to find out. So let me know in the comment section down below, or get at me on one of my other social media channels. But right here is probably the best place to talk about this, because here we are talking about this. All right, you guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope everyone is staying safe out there. I will be back in a few more days with another episode of my vlog. And little birdie told me that we might have a special guest. Sean said he might come on my vlog this week. So stay tuned for that. Until then, thanks so much for watching.